Hi guys and welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Neha and I make videos related to books, and welcome to my May wrap up. So yeah, today's video is going to be a wrap up where I talk about all the books that I finished in the month of May. I had done a similar video for Jan and Feb together and then March and April together, which I'll link up above, do check it out. But today's wrap up will be just for 1 month, which is May. Which is why that there would be lesser books to talk about, because I have read only 4 books in May, and 2 of those I've already extensively covered by the way of reading vlogs, but nevertheless I thought it would be nice to just sit down and recap the month that was, the month of reading that was, and yeah, keep up with the wrap up trend, because I really do like making wrap up videos. So without any further ado, let's quickly get into it. Like I just mentioned, I read a total of 4 books in the month of May. So there was one classic, there was one Japanese translation, there was one historical fiction, American fiction, and one was a recent release and actually one of the most anticipated books of 2024. So let's get into it. Let's talk about each of them. The first book that I finished in May, I also have a reading vlog of, which I'll link up above, do check it out. But it is 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. I've already talked extensively about this book on that vlog, but just to keep it concise and short in this video, this is a historical fiction and it is set in this fictional town called Mocondo, which is in Colombia in Latin America. And it follows the Buendia family, who are kind of like the forefathers of that village, and we follow 5 generations of this family. The town in itself goes through a lot. Like earlier it was very isolated, they were living basically on like farming and the trees, and then slowly they get connected to the world, like rail comes to them, then colonizers come, settlers come in, and there's a civil war which goes on in the country, in which the Buendia family also plays a very active part. So there's a lot of change that we see throughout the book as we read, because we are following 5 generations. So it's a huge multi-generational tale which spans decades, which spans different characters. The men in this family are all, first of all, named the same confusing 2 combinations of names. Either they're Jose Arcadio, or they are Aureliano, or there'll be some other combination of one name but then the same name. So the characters get a little confusing, but the men are all like, power hungry, they're very passionate people, they have all these ambitious plans which kind of like take them above the ground in a way, and the women in this book are always struggling to keep their men on ground and keep them grounded. So that's the dynamic which plays out as well. I really enjoyed this book because it is so readable. The language is so beautiful, it's very descriptive, it's very flowery without being excessive, and there's a lot of things which happen on every single page, which is why it is action packed and you don't want to take your eyes off the page even for a minute, because you'll miss a major plot point. And there's a lot of unpleasant, gory things which happen in this book for this family, but at the heart of it, it is a very, very family oriented story. It is very poignant. There are a lot of moments of love which are shown between the characters. There's also a lot of like enmity shown between these characters, but at the base of it, it is a story of family, it is a story of bonds, it is a story of how blood is thicker than water, essentially. So I really, really enjoyed it. I found this to be a very readable classic, and I would definitely recommend it for that reason. So yeah, that's 100 Years of Solitude. The next book that I finished in May is one of the most anticipated books of the year, which is Emily Henry's new release. This is Funny Story, and everyone's been talking about it since the past month, and of course I had to check it out for myself as well. This is a rom-com, as is typical Emily Henry fare, and it is set in this small town in Michigan. We follow Daphne, who is engaged to a man called Peter. Now Peter and Daphne have a sort of a meet-cute story, like a funny story, which Peter loves narrating wherever he goes. And Daphne is a children's librarian, and she decides to move with Peter to this small town where his family is based. When they reach the town and they settle down and they've set up their life together, Peter realizes on his bachelorette party, at his bachelor's party, that he actually is in love with his best friend, who is this girl called Petra. So he breaks off the engagement with Daphne and he decides to get engaged to this other girl. Daphne, of course, is heartbroken. She's in a new town. She really doesn't know anybody except for Peter's new friends and Peter's friends and family. So she has to move in with Miles, who is actually Petra's ex, and how they form a relationship, or how they just basically first they start to get along, and then of course with all rom-com stories, can opposites attract is the trope over here. You know what, I actually really enjoyed it because I'll tell you why. Daphne really gave me Rory Gilmore vibes. Like, she is somebody who's brought up by a single mother, and she has a very strong relationship with her mom, and the way that she loves books, she loves children, she loves children's books, and that is her own that is her passion, to make children read more, to make literature accessible to children. I really enjoyed that part of Daphne's personality. I felt like it was very readable and relatable, and Gilmore Girls is one of my favorite shows of all time, so any resemblance of any character to Rory Gilmore is a plus in my book. So I really enjoyed how Daphne was portrayed, and Miles is portrayed as like this charming boy who everybody falls in love with, especially like older folks, and Daphne is portrayed as like this introvert, doesn't really do small talk, is socially awkward. So that's like the opposites attract dynamic. The dynamic was okay. It was cliched at many parts. The ending is interesting for sure, because there's like one twist which comes and you're like, oh, okay, so wow, there is something interesting going on here. But apart from that, the love story part is pretty normal, but I really enjoyed Daphne as a character, and I also liked Miles as a character separately. Like, that dynamic together was also fun, but then them as people I enjoyed a lot more. And any mention of books and libraries and children reading books, I also adore. That would be one of my favorite themes. So yeah, overall I did have a fun time with this book. I would rate it actually as one of my favorite Emily Henry books. I don't remember the others that I've read. I think I did like Happy Place as well. Not Happy Place, sorry, the other one, the book one, I forgot that. I'll include the title down below. But yeah, I would say this would be like my number 1 or number 2 Emily Henry book. So yeah, it has my thumb of approval. Then the next book that I finished, I also vlogged extensively. This is Butter by Asako Yuzuki, translated into English by Polly Barton. I have talked about this book a lot. I talked about it in the reading vlog, I talked about it in the book haul, and now I'm talking about this in this wrap up. But essentially this is a Japanese tale which is actually based on a real life serial killer. So we follow this reporter whose name is Rika. The reporter's name is Rika, and she gets very interested in this case of one woman whose name is Kaji. And now this Kaji is someone who's not typically who meets the beauty standards of Japan. She's plump, she's short, she's older, but then she gets involved with 3 or 4 men and gets them to believe that she'll marry them, and they get into this like entire domesticated life. Oh, she's cooking for me, oh, she'll take care of me, and then mysteriously all 4 of them die, and there's nothing really tying Kaji to these crime scenes except that she was seeing all these men before they died. But that is cause enough for for her to be put in jail, and Rika gets enamored by her when she meets her. And Rika also is someone who's a very strong Rika is someone who's a very independent woman. Like, she doesn't want to show any signs of domesticity because it will impact her work, because she is the only woman reporter at her magazine. So, but then she starts talking to Kaji, and she develops this interest in food and cooking and ingredients, and how she also changes is basically the story. I liked it, but I felt like this was a little bit too long. Like, in the middle, my interest really dipped because I felt like it was being very repetitive. Like, the messaging of it is, of course, how women are set up with this unrealistic standard about how women can only be a certain way, how they're, perceived as being like, housewives or mothers or things like that, but not really for the jobs that men do, like journalism or things like that. So there was the messaging, yes, with the right intention, but it kept getting repetitive. So that's why I think in the middle my interest really flagged, and I was about to put down this book when again my interest peaked, because one more character starts getting interested in Kaji, and you see Kaji from a different perspective than what Rika is saying. So I talk about the plot very extensively in that video, so you should check it out. But overall I did like this book. Yeah, otherwise do check it out. This one's also getting a lot of praise on the interwebs, and you should check it out if Japanese books interest you. The camera cut me off. If the angle is a little different, please excuse me. But anyway, the final book that I finished in May was Beloved by Toni Morrison. This is a historical fiction, literary fiction, horror fiction. It is set right after the American Civil War, and we follow Seth, who is an escaped slave who escapes from a farm in Kentucky called Sweet Home, and she escapes to Cincinnati to her mother-in-law. Now, when she is fleeing from Kentucky, she is pregnant, and she sent her 3 other children ahead of her to join baby Suggs, who's her mother-in-law. On the way, she gives birth to her 4th daughter, who she names Denver, after the white woman who helps her on the way. When she reaches Cincinnati, she spends a few days together with her family, but unfortunately her former masters come to search for her, because it's illegal to run away from the south to the north by these slaves. So they come after her, but before they can take her and her children, she kills her elder daughter, and she's in the process of killing her other children when she's stopped. So the masters figure out that there's no use taking this woman, so they go away, but she's put in jail along with her youngest daughter, Denver. When she comes back to the house with baby Suggs and her sons and daughter, they find that they're being haunted by the daughter that she's killed, and that drives her sons away. They run away from that house, and eventually it's only her and Denver. Baby Suggs also dies. Then she meets Paul D, who is also an ex-slave from Sweet Home, that farm that she's come from in Kentucky, and they start a relationship. But then this strange woman who calls herself Beloved also turns up at their doorstep, and stranger things start to happen. I love this book because nobody writes poignant, heartbreaking fiction like Toni Morrison. Like, she is so good at this genre. Like, this genre is for her. Like, there's nobody else who can do this genre as good as her. And I absolutely loved the language in this book, the prose in this book. Like, it breaks your heart, but you can't stop reading because it's so beautifully written. And particularly Seth as a character, I found that it was so visually put. Like, she is someone who would not change what she has done, because there's no way that she would let her children end up in the hands of these masters who abused her, who raped her, who almost beat her to death. So there's no way she would have changed the course of what happened. But she's also guilty, right? She's also driven by guilt at killing her daughter, who she loves very, very dearly. So that play and how she narrates what happened to her is just so beautiful. Like, the trauma that they had to face is so vivid on these pages that it's so good. So this book won the Pulitzer Prize for Toni Morrison, and you can absolutely see why. And it's also based on a real life incident of a woman called Margaret Garner, and I was reading up on her case as well. So it's very similar to what happens to Seth in this book. So it's just it's horrible what happens with these people back then. And yeah, I mean, racism is not over, so you can still see what is happening in US and in other countries across the world. So absolutely loved Beloved. This is my 3rd Toni Morrison, and I think I would rate this 2nd, because I really loved The Bluest Eye as well, which was my first book that I've read. But I really enjoyed this. Definitely reading more Toni Morrison without a doubt, and will urge you to read Beloved as well. So yeah. That's it. Those were the 4 books that I finished in the month of May. As you see, a leaner reading month in terms of the quantity, but quality top-notch. Both Beloved and 100 Years of Solitude I've been meaning to read for so long, so I'm finally glad I finished them. Coming to the favorite book of the month, I would have to say it was Beloved by Toni Morrison. I know it's an old release, but I don't care. I read it this year and I absolutely loved it. And if this would urge you to read it more, I would be happy to talk about it. So yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. If you're still around, please like, share, comment, subscribe, and I will see you very, very soon. Bye.